If you are seeking a full-time paid ministry position for the first time, or if you are planning to relocate your ministry to a different part of the country, you really will want to pay attention to this. Congratulations! This is really exciting. Now, you've gone through the tryout and you've gone through the interview, and now the elders have called you and made you an offer to come and work in that location and be with them, and they will support you. That really is thrilling, and there's only really one question left to determine whether you can actually live and work there on the amount of support that they're offering. Now, can you do that? Well, in order to answer that question, we have to see where the money goes. So we're going to talk about where the support money goes. And I want you to understand, I'm just plucking some numbers out of thin air. This is not reality, but the percentages are correct. I want you to pay attention to the percentages because that will remain true all the way through. So let's go ahead and start talking about our expenses. Where does the money go? Well, we're going to start with a random number of $60,000 per year. And initially you think, wow, that sounds very generous. Well, watch what happens to your fixed expenses. The first thing is you are going to make a contribution because you support the agenda, you are involved in the kingdom, and you want it to thrive and succeed. So you're going to be generous in your contribution and you're going to give about 10%. We figure that that's going to come off the top. After that, you will have to pay 15.3% of Social Security taxes. And we've already gone over that. And if you haven't seen that video, you might look for that one and go ahead and watch that to see how that works out. So at $60,000 a year, a 10% contribution would be $6,000 a year. 15.3% of Social Security tax would be $9,180 a year. On top of that, you're going to have federal income tax to pay, and that's probably going to run 6 to 8%, depending on how your deductions and so on work out. But you're probably going to have to pay between $3,600 and $4,800 a year in federal income tax. And depending on the state that you live in, you may pay a state income tax also, which may range from 4 to 7%, depending on what state you're in and how your deductions and so on work out. You'll have to figure that out later on. But the point is that that's going to be another $2,400 to maybe $4,200 a year in fixed expenses that you have. So here's the bottom line. Your total fixed costs are going to be about 35 to 40% of whatever the number is that the elders are offering you. In this case, that's going to take you from $21,000 to $24,000 a year that you will just have to pay in fixed costs. And after that, you have to pay for housing and utilities and medical insurance and food and all of the normal daily expenses, car payments, student loans, car insurance, life like everybody else has it. So there is a secret formula for you to know whether you can make this work or not. And unfortunately, it's not secret at all. It's just that few people know about it. And I want to pass this information on to you because it's really important that you know how to make a living on this kind of money. The first thing you must do, without fail, is determine a realistic housing cost. What does a house or apartment cost to rent in that location per month? Fortunately, we live in a time where there are wonderful tools to help you get that done. You can go online to Zillow, you can go online to apartments.com and look for a place that is not palatial, but also in not too sketchy a neighborhood where you'd be afraid to take your family. But if you look for a reasonable housing cost, that's the very first thing that you must do. The second step that you do is just ask yourself, is housing supplied? Is a parsonage involved or not? Don't lose sight of the rental amount of money, but ask yourself, is a parsonage supplied or is it not supplied? Because that's going to determine the next step. Step 3, if housing is not supplied, you find your regular rental cost and multiply that times 5. 5. Now, I know that that may sound a little excessive, but watch what happens with this. In our example here, if a reasonable rental amount is about $1,200 a month for an apartment or a house, then you're going to be able to pay your bills and put food on the table and put shoes on your kids' feet and so on if your total, before fixed costs are deducted, if your total support is about $6,000 a month. But that works out to $72,000 a year. Housing costs times 5 if the parsonage is not supplied. If housing is supplied, the alternate step 3, if the housing is supplied, you multiply that average rental amount by 4, not 5. So in our example, if a reasonable rental would be $1,200 a month or so, you'll be able to pay your bills, put food on the table, shoes on your kids' feet, and so on, pay your loan amounts off, and so on. You'll be able to do all of that if the total amount before your fixed costs are deducted, if your total amount is about $4,800 a month, which is $57,600 per year. Now, I know that this may seem odd to you, but the important thing to remember is housing cost determines everything. All your fixed costs would still have to be deducted. If you were punching a time clock someplace and working in some other kind of job, you would still pay those taxes. You wouldn't see all of the money that's being deducted from your check. You'd still have to pay it. You just wouldn't see it. Because of our situation as ministers, we see where every penny goes and we moan and complain about it going away. But that's the way life is. The key to everything is housing costs, because the secret formula absolutely depends on housing. Remember this, housing always reflects the true cost of living in any area. If you are in an area where the housing costs are low, your general cost of living will be low. If you're in an area where housing costs are high, your cost of living will be high. Very often, people will tell you, wherever you're looking, they'll say, well, our cost of living is quite low. Check the housing and you'll know for sure. Housing always reflects the true cost of living in any area, and that's the secret formula, okay? Fair housing rental times 5 per month will tell you if you can live there without housing being supplied. If housing is supplied, fair rental value times 4 is what you will need in order to pay your fixed costs and also pay your bills, put food on the table, and so on. I hope this is helpful to you somehow. It also helps as you move from one area of the country to another, because housing cost will always determine the cost of living. Thank you for being involved in ministry. Ministry matters, and God bless you for doing that. It's going to be a wonderful and exciting time for you and in the kingdom of God. God bless you. And as always, folks, like, subscribe, and share if someone can use this video, because ministry matters. God bless you.